Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Chris Randone as we get ready for Monday, January 27th. We are, of course, brought to you by SuperDraft. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Chris, of course, we have a little bit of heavy news here with the unfortunate accident with Kobe Bryant in the helicopter crash. So thoughts and condolences out to the family. Just reminds everybody of the frailty of life.
Yeah, man, we were talking about it just before the show. Today feels just a little weird. Especially growing up and watching, one of the, if not the best basketball player ever, and just idolizing that type of athlete, and just hearing that news. I think you said it best. It's first off, just prayers to Vanessa and the children, and to all those families affected. And it's unfortunate, and it's probably one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my lifetime thus far. And just thankful for all the memories that he's given us, and all those great memories will definitely leave a legacy forever. But yeah, just cherish your loved ones and don't hold grudges, and just those things really don't matter, man, at the end of the day. So yeah, it sucks, EMAC. We were talking about it before. It just doesn't feel the same at all.
Yeah, and it's just one of an iconic person that was at the apex of pop culture and the sports world for he had a 20-year career, which is pretty impressive and notable. And it's just one of those. So many of us saw him Saturday night on TV with the LeBron scoring record, or moving up the all-time scoring chart, and then just to kind of get that news, you're like, wow. It just reminds you that scary stuff does happen. It impacts everybody, but when it's someone that cultural touchstone, I think, is that the right phrase? Someone that has been weaved in the fabric of sports and a variety of other things. We had mentioned like kind of like a Michael Jackson or a Prince or the occasional actor, etc.,
Hmm.
um, has that kind of an impact. But just a reminder that you want to try to be good, because you never know when it's all gonna be over. But in the meantime, get back over here to DFS. We have, see, I think 6 games. Yes, indeed, we have 6 games. 3 of them have over unders out. Teams on back to backs would be Houston, which is going to be noteworthy. The Spurs, and I think that is it. Then looks like everybody else played, or a chunk of them played on Saturday. So the one thing that we want to note is Russell Westbrook is going to sit on the back to back, and James Harden is dealing with a bruised quad. He was out on Sunday, currently listed as doubtful for Monday. So there will be a plethora of Houston understudies that we'll be able to turn to. But starting off with healthy players, what do you got at the point guard spot for it?
Yeah, with Harden and Westbrook out, the clear cut is Luka Doncic. And I do like this matchup. And 11-9, I'm definitely okay with on a 6-game slate. Uh, Probably going to have more than the field in this type of situation if both Harden and Westbrook out. I mean, the ceiling's just so significant compared to these other guys down the list. I really like De'Aaron Fox. Probably a lot of players from this game. It's going to be high pace, a lot of possessions. Minnesota's just not good defensively, and obviously, I think this probably will be one of the highest scoring games on the slate. I don't see the over under yet, but I could imagine we're looking at the 220 to 230 range. D Rose, his price just continues to creep, man, and it does get tougher to pay this type of price. And so I don't know if I can exactly get there. Um, it took him over time to get to 45 points, Emax. So, but at 7,800, I mean, if Bruce Brown is there and Langston Galloway, I mean, yes, Rose has been starting. Yes, he's getting more minutes, but I think with Drummond on the floor, it just makes it a little bit more difficult for him to exceed that point per dollar value. So I don't know if D Rose is the answer on this 6-game slate. But then following him are the 3 guards from OKC who have all been playing outstanding in their own right. Chris Paul, though, out of the 3 is who I would want the most. Believe it or not, he's been playing some fantastic ball. He's been shooting well. He's really taken on this role in OKC and really embraced it. So of these 3 guys, I don't think I would want to pay 6,800 for Schroeder coming off the bench. It's just something where it's not guaranteed compared to Chris Paul and Alexander. So I really do like Chris Paul at 7,500. I like this matchup for some reason, Dallas and OKC. So I could see some players in my player pool coming in from that game. Colin Sexton's price is increasing, been playing great ball, but I just don't know if I want to pay 7,000 for him. I mean, he is someone who can get you 25, 30 fantasy points, but as his price now has been creeping up into the high 6,000 range, it's really difficult to see yourself getting enough shares of him or wanting enough shares of him. But the next guy's pretty interesting is Shabazz Napier. Last game, he dropped 50 fantasy points, DK fantasy points. And what's crazy about this, EMAC, is he took 6 field goal attempts and had 50 fantasy points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds. Had a triple double, but it's just crazy to know that he only took 6 field goal attempts, made 4 of them, and he dropped 50 points. So from 6K and above, I mean, looking at these guys, I see the most of my desires going towards Doncic. And then outside of that, I really do like Chris Paul. I like De'Aaron Fox and Shabazz Napier. I don't mind it. I'm not saying that he's going to replicate that. I don't think that there's no way possible, but it is intriguing to know that if he's doing, something at 6,200, I don't mind it either, especially if ownership is low.
All right, your cheap Houston guys, should they come into play? Chris Clemens at 3,000 on DK, 35 on FanDuel, and 10 on Yahoo. There are better $10 players on Yahoo, but he is basically the site minimum there on the other 2. You've got Austin Rivers coming in at 36, 36, and 10. He would be a much better play. The fun one there is Eric Gordon. Let me call him up because I want to say he was... what was he, 6,900 on DK, and then when we get to FanDuel, he has 4,400. That's a huge disparity, but he will be benefiting even if Harden does play. I think he's a good option on FanDuel for sure. Probably Yahoo at 15. We'll have to see what happens there for DK, but that would be the Houston backcourt. The other guys that are interesting is you mentioned and kind of shifting over to shooting guard here. I do like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 73 on DK. That's a very nice price. 76 on FanDuel. Usually players are a little bit less on FanDuel, but that's still a decent price. And then 35 on Yahoo, a little bit tougher to get there. But I do want to point out that over their last 15 games, the Dallas Mavericks have the 5th worst defensive efficiency. They're allowing 114 points per 100 possessions. They are playing at the 7th slowest paced in that time frame, 96 possessions per game. So just wanted to call that out. There'll be plenty of cheapies. So we'll hit on those, or we'll save some of those for the DFS strategy show. We are having a little issue with our YouTube channel, so we will be broadcasting, of course, as we always do, on Twitch as well as Periscope for this week until that gets sorted out. But if you're hearing this on the podcast, don't forget, if you go to YouTube, you're not gonna see the show there, but follow us on Twitter at Awesemo_COM, and you could get the links for all of our shows. You can follow us, of course, on Periscope and Twitch, and also be notified through those platforms whenever we go live. Interesting guy here, Zach LaVine. Is he really worth 9,800, 9,300, and 41? The 41, I'll say yes. Going against San Antonio, they are on a back-to-back. Here, what do you want to do with Zach Attack? Is this the new normal?
I mean, man, he's been playing pretty outstanding.
He's in decaf mode. His defense is horrid.
Yeah, his defensive efficiency is obviously not there. We talked about a few games prior where he in the 8-9K range, only dropping 30 fantasy points. But I mean, hey, he's showing these ceiling games of 56, 60, 68, and now 72. Over the last 12 games, he's averaging 1.24 fantasy points a minute. It's really hard to say no to an extent. San Antonio's defense is not the Norm Popovich defense we've seen in previous years. I don't mind it. Guards do play very well against San Antonio, so I could see this being in his favor. Um, yeah, I think when it comes down to is where's the ownership going to be on a 6-game slate? How many people want to pay 9,800 for Zach LaVine? Now, if Harden is out, I think obviously it makes it easier. Or do people want to pivot and save 1,700 and maybe go with DeRozan? So that's going to be the main question. But I mean, yeah, he has a very high usage rate. I think over the last, if I'm not mistaken, I just want to make sure I'm correct here. Last game, EMAC, he had a 44% usage rate. But even in the games before that, 36, 37, 36. I mean, majority of the possessions, I mean, the ball is in his hands. And I mean, as long as that's there, I mean, in some cases, his usage rate is higher than Harden's on some occasions. So, I mean, why not? So I think it's okay, and I think it's more than fair. I'm just curious to see where the field thinks about this play. But as we go down the list, I think Donovan Mitchell at 7,900, I'm okay with against Houston. I mean, really, he's going to. I don't know how this game's going to shape up because I mean, it's just going to be a lot of the second unit on this floor, and I think this is an area where a lot of these Utah guys will be able to benefit from. So I think I'm willing to pay 7,900 on a 6-game slate for Mitchell. Rose, we spoke of. Wiggins, he's once again, we've talked about this multiple times, but I just don't think I don't think 7,100. I don't think we could pay that. He's just not doing enough. Point per dollar wise, it's not there. Fantasy points per minute, it's just not there. Towns now is really just.
I'll take the other side of that. I think it
Ooh.
really is dramatically different with Towns back. It gives the defenses other people that they have to focus on and worry about, and it allows him to get back to doing more of the scoring and not have to be the kind of the everything. If we look at his points, just NBA points in his last 3 games, 22, 28, and 25, those are all 3 of those are higher than all but one game from when Towns was out.
Mm-hmm.
His assists, he just has 4 over his last 2 games, but he's not necessarily, obviously we saw, you mentioned Napier got the triple-double, etc. So he's kind of stepped into more of that point guard role, keeping Wiggins now as the secondary scorer and the secondary ball handler, which I think suits him a little bit better. So I'm actually okay with him at that price point. Is there a little bit of
It's tough.
quicksand
I mean,
there? Yeah, there is,
tough.
because the upside, that's what the risk is. So maybe this is like a cash game or a point per dollar. I think he's a building block. Does he get more than 40 fantasy points? I don't know. That feels like a reasonable target goal for him. What's his worst game? I think it'd be in the upper 20s. But what is his high game? I don't know that he gets to 50. So I think depending on what you're trying to do with your lineups, but I don't want to dismiss him out. And plus, he's shooting guard, small forward eligible, which makes him available for 5 of the 8 slots that are on DraftKings.
No, I get it. I just since the last 3 games since Towns been back, I mean, 0.91 fantasy points per minute compared to the 1.10 that he was averaging before that. So, I mean, it's tough because there's obviously upside there, absolutely, especially with defenses and obviously Towns on the floor makes a huge difference. Probably a little bit more of a comfort factor for him too. Doesn't have to see too much of defensive pressures compared to Towns not being on the floor. So I get it. It's just tough, man. If it was 6,100, 6,300, I get it. But once you creep in the 7,000 range, there's other options I feel that are more suitable. But I mean, hey, that's why we all have opinions here. And that's why I also think, if it comes down to Eric Gordon then or Andrew Wiggins, Eric Gordon's 6,900 back on this slate. Would we pay 6,900 for Eric Gordon with both Harden and Westbrook out?
I don't know. We're gonna find out on Monday, though, for sure. Here's the Zach LaVine stuff I wanted to point out. So his last 5 games: 30, 21, 18, 19, and 31. No, those aren't points. Those are field goal attempts. He's taken 30 field goal attempts twice in his last 5 games. Unreal.
That just doesn't make any sense.
That's like Russell Westbrook in the heavy triple-double days.
Yeah, I'm confused by that too.
Yeah, I don't know. In any event, looking down for some of our other guys, Ben McLemore, yeah, not really exciting, but he is 58 on DK,
They did a great
36
job with
on
Price and
FanDuel.
Emac. I gotta
D-
say, they did a great
yeah,
job.
yeah, but on FanDuel 36, yeah, there's kind of
Oh
a
yeah.
gimme there, and 10 on Yahoo. I do feel there are some better $10 players out there on Yahoo, but that is your public service announcement for which of the Houston understudies are we going to be talking about.
They got Rivers and McLemore at 3,600 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
And PJ Tucker's 41. So I can just only imagine lock in Doncic, lock in the three lower guys, and let's just pound Zach LaVine. Small forward you don't have to worry about, but you can get a really good power forward, and then you can get Drummond or Towns. It's like,
Yeah,
come on, man. They're making it too easy.
yeah, that is the exact build I was just mentally putting into my mind. Small forward here, kind of using Wiggins as our launch pad. You get Danilo Gallinari should be back. It was, I believe, it was a maintenance or a rest day.
It was his thumb. It was his
Oh,
thumb.
was it his thumb? Okay.
Or
No, yeah, it is his thumb. So
yeah.
it does say probable. So he should be good to go there. Adams should be good to go. Nerlens Noel questionable. God, he got banged in the face, and now he's got his left foot arch is an issue or whatever. That poor guy just can't seem to stay healthy. But I do like Gallinari here. Particularly on FanDuel at 6,200, 7K on DraftKings. Joe Ingles, I think, is interesting, 54, 55, and 23. Don't really like that on Yahoo, but I'm fine with the other two prices. We do know, and this is something Adam and Loppy point out a lot, we do know that Quinn Snyder, coach of the Utah Jazz, tends to run his starters out for their first fourth quarter rotation when they're at home, kind of regardless of the score. The other day they were up by, I don't know, 25 or 30 points, and Gobert played like 32 minutes, something crazy like that. So this is without Harden, without Westbrook, could be a little lopsided, but I think we'll get reasonable approximations of the minutes for our Utah core rotation, and as Chris mentioned, it's going to be against the secondary squad, so their efficiency should be up a little bit here. What do you want to do with Buddy Hield? Coming off the bench, jacking some shots, 6,600 DK, 63 on FanDuel, and 26 on Yahoo.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand he's making 44% of his shots this season. I mean, he's shooting pretty well. And I mean, if he's coming off, he's facing the second unit, and he's going to take 15, 16 shots at 6,600. Does it really change anything outside of him starting? I mean, the minutes are down a little bit, which is definitely a cause of concern, but maybe a sneaky play. I mean, obviously that's probably going to scare a lot of people, but the matchup is great. Defensively, Minnesota's second unit, there's nothing there for him to be a concern of. So I like him at 6,600. I like Fournier at 6,400 at Miami. He's just someone who he needs to do a little bit more than just score. He's definitely scoring dependent, but he can definitely get you there. He can definitely get the 35 fantasy points without a doubt. Other than that, though, I love the Utah guys. So Ingles and Bogdanovich, I love them in the 5K range. I think they're both great plays. I think they can easily get there against Houston's second unit in this matchup, and as they should. I mean, this is definitely a game that favors Utah heavily. I think the only thing that would be a concern is the blowout risk, if that's the case. But other than that, though, I mean, I definitely love those. Will probably be two. And small forward's kind of soft, so I don't mind kind of just paying in the 5K range, and also paying in the 4 or 5K range on FanDuel as well. But Chris Dunn is someone interesting. And for the defensive side, I kind of like him more for FanDuel because of the value of the steals. But I do like him at 5,500. He's playing, plus 30 minutes, and at 5,500, he's been averaging a little bit over 30 fantasy points. So I like it, and I'll continue to have more of it. I think Chidi Osman, 4,900, don't mind that either. And Bruce Brown had a really good game last game. He's 4,700. He's going to get the minutes now. If Jackson is out, which I'm not sure if that's confirmed yet, but I like him even more. And I think also I would go with Tim Hardaway Jr. at 4,800 as well.
Okay, Reggie Jackson. He is currently questionable with a spine injury. Yikes. Bruised left lumbar. Interesting. Let me see here. What was I looking up? Buddy Hield taking the second most 3-pointers in the league. Well, technically, he is tied with Damian Lillard at 9.8 per game. They are both behind James Harden, who is taking 13 per game. But Hield is making 36.4% of his 3-pointers, so that is kind of a nice one there. Quick call out here for our presenting sponsor, SuperDraft. That's over at superdraft.io. What they have is roster freedom, amazing flexibility, no salary cap. Well, how does that work? Wouldn't we just take an all-star team? Well, you could if you'd like to, but they have what is called multipliers. So if you're a good player like a Westbrook or a Harden or a Sabonis, etc., your multiplier is going to be 1. So you score 50 fantasy points, you get 50 fantasy points. If you're someone that's kind of mid-tier, like Jimmy Butler, it's 1.3. DeMar DeRozan's 1.3. Zion's been at 2 for a while. So like tonight, Zion scored top of the heading but scored about 38 fantasy points. He would get double that. So it's kind of fun to play over there. They do have late swap. They are Fantasy Cruncher friendly, and you can get a $20 sign-up bonus if you use the promo code AWESEMO when you make your first deposit, if that is $100 or more. And you get immediately $20 in SuperDraft cash. But a couple guys I wanted to call out there that could be interesting plays. You've got Eric Gordon with a 1.8 multiplier. Yes, please. You've also got that would be a better multiplier than Dorian Finney-Smith for perspective. Joe Ingles at 1.55 I think is intriguing, and then Danilo Gallinari at 1.5. I think those are all ones that stand out a little higher than normal. So give them a try over there, superdraft.io. All right, let's hit power forwards here, Chris, and see what we've got. Kevin Love up at the top. You've got the return of Kristaps Porzingis. The price is reasonable. I still don't want to play him just because I don't like his particular role. Better real-life basketball player at this point than fantasy producer, but that price comes down another 10%. I'm going to be all over Porzingis there. Robert Covington, 5,600, 5,500 on FanDuel, 22 on Yahoo. There's an interesting price point. And then you've got Larry Nance. We've had some Larry Nance sightings the last couple games. I don't know what's going on with Tristan Thompson. He seems to be kind of in a bit of a funk. This is not the easiest of matchups for these guys going against the rebounding vortex, also known as Andre Drummond. What are you seeing here at the top of our power forward list?
Man, I don't like any of the top guys. You mentioned a guy that I really like, Larry Nance Jr.
I bring up Larry Nance Jr. because it falls off quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And with Markkanen out still and Otto Porter out, I'm going to go back to Thaddeus Young. I mean, they still have not done anything with his price at 4,900. It's an easy lock for me, regardless of the recency bias as of late. He can definitely get there. Just probably I would like to see a little bit more of him be aggressive and shoot more. But outside of that, though, you mentioned Larry Nance. Love that play at 5,400. And it's okay because I feel like with him coming off the bench, a lot of people don't want to roster him. They would only want to roster him if he starts. And so that's an area where you could take advantage of. Covington, 5,600. Don't mind that either. We spoke on Bogdanovic. It's really going to be a slate where I think you just pay down. PJ Tucker's 4,100. Obviously not the best of fantasy options and really can't do much, but at 4,100, I mean, we know that he has those little bumps where he can get 30 fantasy points on a rare occasion, but the last 3 games should at least give you some sort of confidence, 28, 21, 26. And with Westbrook off the floor now too, they're going to need production from places. PJ Tucker fits that mold. Depending on if there's OKC injuries still, I don't mind going back to Muscala, to Baisley, to even Dallo. I mean, any of these low, cheap guys, if the injuries are still present with Noel, with Adams. I'm okay there as well. But other than that, though, I think Christian Wood, we can talk about 4,800 double potential. For him, I just wish that a little bit more time on the floor. But you know what? Even in the small amount of time that he is there, I'm going to go ahead and just still have the confidence in him. So I like him the way that he comes off the rotation. He's getting 20 minutes right now. But other than that, though, I'm not really seeing too much. I will say, though, with Christian Wood, he's been averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute this season. So if he just got more time on the floor, Mac, my God, I mean, it would definitely just be a no-brainer. If ownership's not there, I like Christian Wood even more.
All right. I don't think we really hit on Kevin Love. This is the front end of a back-to-back here for Cleveland, so just keep an eye on that. He did play in the last back-to-back, so if he's playing this one, we should see him for around 32 minutes. In the 3 previous games against Detroit this season, he is averaging 31.5 minutes and 34 fantasy points. That feels like a reasonable approximation for where he ought to be on Monday. Going to our center spot and rounding things out, we have at the top Karl Anthony Towns. Is he back? It sure looks like it. So he has been really, really good his last, I guess, 3 games. So he's been back 5 after missing the better part of a month. Oh, sorry, he's been back for 6 games. First game back, he played 28 minutes at 34 fantasy points. The next game, 27 minutes, 29 fantasy points. And then the shackles were off. He was unencumbered by any minutes restriction. Played 35, put up 50 fantasy points. Played 31, put up 50 fantasy points. 28, put up 50 fantasy points. And then in his last outing, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 64 DK points there in 35 minutes. I think he is a centerpiece. You have Andre Drummond coming off his 5th straight 20 rebound performance against Jared Allen and company. He hasn't had the best matchups against Cleveland thus far, but he's someone I think we can still consider there. And then Vooch is on is he on a back? Blanking on, yeah, they played the Clippers. So Vooch is on the back-to-back going into Miami against Bam Adebayo. I don't really like that one. And then lastly, Rudy Gobert. So we have an embarrassment of riches here at the center spot, Chris. So I'll turn this over to you. But Rudy Gobert going against Clint Capella there seems like a reasonable matchup because Capella's not going to take him out to the 3-point line.
Yeah, I'm going to want to pay up here at center. I love Towns, love Drummond, love Gobert. Gobert's been playing fantastic. At 9,000, honestly, with the prices, I like him probably the most here with the way that he's been playing. But I love Towns in this spot.
Do you know he is shooting 68.9% from the field? Gobert is.
It's unreal. Yeah, it's unreal. The only thing with Gobert is really nothing. I can't say anything bad about him. I've been watching the last few games of him, and the aggressiveness, the defense, just all around, he's playing outstanding. And so for me in this spot, I love Gobert, and I think I want to pay up here at center. There's really not much as we go down, EMAC, that I like as far as value, and also a lot of people that aren't in good matchups outside of the people who are maybe power forward and center eligible. But on FanDuel, if we look at it from here, you literally have your 3 studs, and then Vucevic, Capella, and then it just drops down. You have like 3 studs, these like 2 little in between guys, and it just really drops down to nothing. So I can assure you that on FanDuel, no doubt, I think you're going to want one of these 3 guys. I don't think, even if Adams does play, how much run does he actually get? Tristan Thompson has really been disappointing over the last 2 games, but even before that, outside of his 45-point game, his last 6 games, really, it's just outside of that one good game, there's really been nothing there. So Drummond, Towns, Gobert, I think honestly on this slate are going to be the plays that I want to do at center.
All right, I do want to point out I'm correcting myself. Drummond has actually kicked crap out of Cleveland in 3 meetings this year. He's averaging 39 minutes. I don't think we're going to see 39 minutes from him, but he is averaging 23 points and 19 rebounds. He leads the league in rebounds this year with 15.8 per game. He also has double doubles, I want to say, in 35 of 42 games or something crazy like that. So my apologies. I had the wrong game log up when I said he had not done well against. All right. That gets us through the stuff here. Let's talk for just a second here. The interesting thing about all those good centers, one, the issue is if you go cheap, it's not like you're just hoping one or two guys has a bad game. You've got four in really good spots. So
Right.
you're on FanDuel in particular, you're really putting yourself at a heavy disadvantage because you're, I hate using the term fade, but it's one that everybody likes to hear. You need four guys to do poorly, not one or two. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, which one you choose, okay, that's a different question. But I don't think I'd want to go cheap at center here. There's too much of a chance that you end up with the guy that has 25 or 30 fantasy points, and we got four guys that are all going to be flirting with 50 fantasy here.
Yeah, I agree. The way I look at it with the center position is if there's really not much there for me at power forward and then small forward as well, it's kind of a no-brainer that you're going to want to pay up at center. Looking at how there's really nothing there at small forward, especially on FanDuel. When you look at FanDuel, I mean, you're not paying up whatsoever. Honestly, you might stick with just Gallinari, Bogdanovic, and Ingles of your main three, and just potentially Gordon as well because he's so cheap, 4,400. But outside of that, I mean, you could roll with that type of player pool, in my opinion. But with power forward not offering much and small forward not offering much, you could easily pay up at center, pay up at shooting guard, and pay up at point guard. You have these Houston guys as well, so it makes it so easy to pay up at center. And I mean, these guys have such a high ceiling that it makes the rest of these options down there at center just it's just not valuable whatsoever.
Indeed. Indeed. Oh, that reminds me, something that is valuable. LIV, the promo code. It stands for Roman numeral 54. That's right, Super Bowl 54 right around the corner here, coming up on Sunday. But that promo code will get you a full month of Awesemo All Access for $54. Again, that is promo code LIV. Yes, it's the Roman numerals. But if I say Roman numerals for 54, I wouldn't know what that was. So that's why I say LIV. All right, with that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Randone. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.